Hey guys, welcome back to Old World Wednesday, and in today's video you are going to be continuing on our kind of monstrous infantry series of videos that we accidentally started a few weeks ago. We've done one of the old school 90s river trolls. Last week we did a Croxagore in an awesome purple color scheme, and this week I thought I'd go back to the trolls because people seem to enjoy them, and I'm going to do one of the old 90s rock trolls this time. So I'm going to do it in like a blue and kind of pallid skin tone. Should be really nice. Very excited to see how it turns out. Love the models to death. Do not have all the sculpts yet. I've only got 3, and then the plastic one from Not Out in the Blood from Battlefield Pass. So I'm missing a couple of those sculpts. Hopefully I get my hands on them at some time in the future. But yeah, should be a good video, and hopefully you're excited to see it. Before I dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone there that continues to support Mediocre Hobbies, Old World Wednesday and Middle Earth Monday by watching the videos, liking, commenting and subscribing. Those things cost you nothing, but they make a huge difference as to how many people see these videos and how quickly the channel grows. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for those who do that. And everyone out there who goes the extra mile and supports over on Patreon, you guys keep the lights on and the cameras rolling. So to say thank you, there's a whole bunch of different benefits. You get access to a private Discord server. You can hang out with me on a daily basis, talk about your hobby, get involved with our painting competitions, community showcases, and stuff like that. We also have extra videos. We also have access to a podcast, and we do a monthly giveaway. This month over on the Patreon, we are giving away this Mechanicum Army box set. So if you want to be in the chance of winning that, all you need to do is be signed up to Patreon at any tier. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's dive in and start painting a troll. So this is the stone trolls. I just got them very quickly built and put them onto some MDF bases. I'm doing all my old world on MDF bases. I just prefer the look of it, especially when they're all ranked up. And then I gave them a coat of black and then a coat of grey cedar to start them off. I'm only going to be working on one, but I did build the 3 stone trolls that I do own. I technically own 4. I own the one from Island of Blood as well. I keep saying Island of Blood. The Skull Pass box set had a plastic version of these. And then there's actually 6 metal sculpts. So anyone out there who watched the River Troll video from a few weeks ago, they only did 3 River Troll sculpts, old metal ones. And the Stone Trolls got 6 and a plastic one. So 7 unique sculpts for them, which I think is incredible. But I don't have them. I'm missing 3 of them now. So I'll have to go on eBay and hopefully not spend an arm and a leg to try and finish off all of those trolls from my collection. Because I think I do genuinely enjoy the old metal miniatures more than the new plastic ones for Old World. Is that weird? There's just something so charming about them, and I just enjoy the process of painting them a little bit more. It feels like I've got less pressure or less stress, kind of slightly less detail. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments, do you prefer painting the older models, or is the newer, more modern stuff for the Old World enjoyable for you? Okay, so as you can see, I'm just throwing on a few contrast base coats right now. Griff Charger Grey for the kind of scales. I'm leaving the kind of pallid body alone. I'm just leaving the grey here as a base coat. I will be working it up with a couple of colors after the shade stage, so don't worry about that. Gore Grunt of Fur is used for all of the wood and leather straps. I actually didn't use a contrast grey because I find the grey to be a little bit weak, so I went for straight Mechanica Standard and I painted in the rocks. And then an Aggros Dunes for all of the bone work. So he's obviously got some skulls and some bone trinkets hanging off of chains and stuff. So make sure you go around and find all of those. Because they're not very uniform, they'll be all over the place on all the different models. So you have to go hunting. Some lead belcher was then brought in for the remaining parts. And that's literally just his ears have a few chains hanging through them with a bell hanging off on this one as an example. There might be bits hanging off of belts and stuff on other sculpts. So once again, do take your time and try and find all those details. Okay, from here, I'm fairly confident that we have all of the base coats on, so we can shade it all down. I just grabbed an Army Painter black tone, a nice dark shade, to really darken the whole thing down and give us a really nice kind of base coat to work up from with all of our layer paints. So I'm not letting it pool too much anywhere, so even when it's on that really kind of pale stomach and nose and stuff, it's not like turning it jet black. It's just the recesses will be quite dark, which I think definitely fits the tone and the style of Old World. Or is that just me again? For everything to be just a little bit darker in the recesses, and then obviously you overemphasize everything with your highlights a bit later on. So this is what it's like with all of the shade on. I then went in with some Dark Earth from AK Interactive and I applied that to the base. And then I let both of those dry for a few minutes and then came back obviously and then started working up that skin. I'm going to work on the scales first though. And obviously they're traditionally this kind of bluey grey color for the scales. So I decided to kind of invent my own triad for this. So I'm going for Dark Reaper into Thunderhawk and from Thunderhawk into Fenrisian Grey. These are the 3 tones that I'm going to be playing around with kind of hard to showcase, so I'm just going to show you like the side of the face, nose and ear as I'm going along with these three tones to give you an example of how I'm layering it. So when it goes into the kind of Fenrisian, sorry, not the Fenrisian grey, the darker tone, the Dark Reaper, it's quite a strong coat. It's going in, but I am going in with a feathering technique. I'm not trying to overpower the previous colors. I'm leaving those recesses nice and dark. But this is kind of like a 70 to 80% coverage on those sections. And then when we jump up to that mid-tone, obviously we're only doing like a 30, 35, 40% coverage on that. And those kind of raised areas, the jaw around the cheeks, like a forehead, those big kind of overemphasized eyebrow sections and stuff like that. It means it's so much fun to layer up models that are like kind of overdone. That's why I really enjoy painting things like orcs and ogres. You definitely know where the highlights are supposed to go on a skin or on a face, as opposed to elves, which don't have like that much kind of crazy detail. They're so smooth because they're supposed to be these like, you know, pearlescent skin and stuff. So sometimes a little bit harder to highlight those. And here I am with that Fenrisian grey for that last highlight, which is obviously only like kind of 5 to 10% coverage. You can see I'm going in really lightly and just kind of attacking the model with the very point of my brush. Little sharp lines. And obviously we'll take the blue up to the next step and make it pop a little bit. Okay, time to start working on the skin. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth. So I'm going to go for a pallid witch flesh first, just to kind of, I don't know, make it pop a little bit more, just to add in a bit more of the kind of like volumes. And then I'm going to shade the whole thing down again, but with a really watered down Berserker blood shade. I just want to tint that really pale skin red because I want the recess to be nice and dark, but I want there to be a little bit more warmth to it and add a little bit more reds into it. I wasn't really planning on doing that. I thought I could go from like pallid witch flesh and then maybe a last highlight of like pure white. But the model as a whole, when I finished the first coat of pallid, just looked really kind of cold and drawn and just not very exciting. So that's when I pivoted and decided to kind of warm up the kind of center of the model more so. And I was obviously a bit nervous about doing it, but I'm kind of a just go for it when it comes to painting kind of person. So I just went for it. And I did actually like how the results turned out. So anyone that has used Berserker Bloodshade know it's quite a strong tone. So you can see as I apply it here, you can see how kind of translucent it is. And that should be an indication of the amount of water that I did mix it. It's probably like 50-50 water, maybe a little bit more than 50% water. It is going to obviously tint all of that white, but it's not going to leave any of the highlighting. It's not going to cover up any of the highlighting we've already done with those sections. So a little bit of volume left in it, which is really nice. Not that the camera would focus to show you any of those details. But that's how the skin looked after that dried. And as you can see, it made a huge difference, added in that warmth. And then I went back in with that same pallid witch flesh previously and just did a very light highlight. Once again, very scratchy, almost like a feathering technique on all the details. And as you can see, it really works. I think it really sells the look of the stone troll. And I'm much happier with how the whole model as a whole like looks and feels with this tone as opposed to when I hadn't done the Berserker and it was still very pale looking. And as you can see, I am using very reserved brush strokes. I'm really not trying to leave a lot of pallid witch flesh behind. It's just on the most kind of predominant features. Like I said, it's a technique that I've never really done before with this, but I think I'll definitely be using it again. I really enjoy how it looks. Morghast bone and Ushabti bone were then very quickly brought in to layer up and highlight things like all the bone sections, the teeth and the claws. I even used most of these colors to do the kind of rope straps around the his little stone club that he has. Both of them have got quite a bit of water mixed into them. They're almost like a glaze. Once again, old world stuff is supposed to kind of pop and be a little bit kind of bright and gaudy. But not like Age of Sigmar bright. It's like a different type of bright. I don't know how to explain it. You know, orcs are supposed to have toxic green skin and, you know, so even the bones are supposed to be super polished. Of course, spending a little bit of time on the eye because I was careful with the kind of previous rounds of painting. It was in a pretty good place already. I just added a pupil to it and then put a bit of gloss varnish over the top of it. It was already tinged red around the outside. I lie, actually, I did go back in with some more pallid witch flesh, and I made sure that the eye was a little bit brighter. And then glazed over it with a nice varnish to make it shiny. Back to Mechanica Standard Grey to do a mid-tone on the rocks. And then I did grab out a little bit of Dawn Stone to do some scratchy highlights on the rest of the stone. Pretty much on the home stretch there. I mean, we brought back in some lead belcher and re-highlighted the metallics a tiny bit. But I was really happy with how this looks. So just like the previous trolls, I just add a little bit of super glue to the base. I add some of this spongy flock stuff on that I've been using for the last kind of couple of weeks, really enjoying it. Press it into place. It dries in seconds. I pull it off and it leaves a nice little bit of kind of lush green flock behind, which I think it sells as nice basing material quite well. Obviously, I'm going to show you it next to the troll from a couple of weeks ago as well, so you can see the comparison. They both very different aesthetics, but I think as a duo, they sit next to each other quite well. Like, I think they belong. You can tell it's the same like painting style and the same kind of tones. So I think together they look incredible. So here's the final result of my first metal stone troll. Really happy with the result. Can't wait to get the other two painted. I carve out some time, maybe on a Twitch stream soon. But yeah, I'm very happy with them. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to do the usual like, comment, subscribe, and all that other good stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.